I'm Edmund Folefac, medical oncologist, specialized in genitourinary cancers, which we call GU cancers for short. And that includes cancers of the prostate, bladder, kidney, testicular cancers, and some very rare types of cancers. I grew up in Africa where there was a lot of, not many people had access to real highly qualified doctors. And my thinking has always been I wanted to go to medicine to help people, not see people die, so I can help and do the things that I really wanted to do, which is help. And I think if I come in 5 generations from now, or maybe in the afterlife, I still want to be a doctor. I'm a physician. I'm a university lecturer. I'm a researcher. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do this. I'm forced to do this because none of that makes sense to me if my people are dying.
I have a guest today who you will be learning as much about him today as I am, even though you'll be surprised that I am. But Dr. Edmund Folefac is the person I'm talking about. I have been in a few town meetings or group meetings with Dr. Edmund Folefac, and because of that, I've come to learn so much about him that I really wanted to get to know him a little more with you. And I think, Doctor, are you there to share a little bit of you today with us, both personal and political?
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Mr. Ambe. I'm really happy to be here to share whatever little thoughts I have with your viewers and with you. Just maybe a fireside chat, I guess.
Absolutely. One of the things that people like about Esteem is the what you just call fireside chat. Is the informal and but getting to personal. Because one of the things I like to do with people is I like to share with my audience what questions I usually imagine what questions they're asking, and I try to extract that and share with them. And I'm saying that because there's a show that we did from our meeting in Atlanta, and you made some profound statements there. And I do know that people watching that show, a lot of people came and liked that show. Some called me and they talked to me about the show. I think it lifted a lot of people. Not just the concept of ASIC, but what we talked about in terms of our people and what we could be doing and some of the opportunities we're missing. I remember you talking about people going to war and they need to know their strengths and their weaknesses and magnify their strengths and minimize their weaknesses. Those are some of the things that I think people really liked to hear you expand on because in our struggle, I think we've so much concentrated on the politics and forgotten and almost forgotten to pay attention to who we are so that we know who we are, know our strengths and our weaknesses so that we can better use them to win a fight that we must win. I prepared something here, this statement. I want you to react to it. I said, and I prepared this because I know I was going to talk to you. I said, we were not created to come and be consumers of other people's imagination, creativity, and hard work. I know you seem to show a lot of expertise on that kind of stuff when we met in Atlanta. Help me. Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. Without doubt. That statement is so apt at describing humanity. And I know that when we're chatting behind the scene, what you had asked me was the statement I had made about the randomness of people's intelligence and stupidity and morality and immorality.
Stupidity and intelligence, immorality and morality are random coefficients. They are randomly distributed. Meaning, when you go to any country, take any random 10 people, you're going to get as equal number of smart people as you will get stupid people. You will get as number of moral people as you will get immoral people. The difference between communities that thrive and those that fail is somehow those communities are better structured, organized in a way that they are better able to leverage the whatever their intelligent people can bring to the table, right, to uplift the stupid people. Right. And the flip side is true for the communities that fail.
The societies that prosper would use their smart people, their moral people, to uplift the entire society. On the contrary, societies that are destined to fail, like the dystopian Republic of Cameroon, what they will do is that they will see intelligence as a threat. They see morality as a threat, and therefore suppress that, and therefore make people, you either acquiesce to evil, they silence you, or worse still, they kill you, they eliminate you. And in that context, so that's really the difference between the societies. And it would lead me to really profoundly the problems that we have really as Africa and as Ambazonia. And you can think about every society, right? There are three philosophers I would want you to go look up on and look at their three theories. One is Hobbes, the other one is Locke, and then the other one is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Now, Thomas Hobbes seemed to say that people are born evil, and if left to their own devices, they will be, they will be engaged in violence, chaos, and they would essentially cannibalize one another. And therefore, they need what he calls a Leviathan to actually be the person who comes in, organize them and stop them from killing each other. In other words, he was arguing for some kind of a benevolent dictator, And then, John Locke, on the other hand, says no. People are born with what he calls tabula rasa, which is a blank slate. That people are born, and everybody, we have the ability to do incredible things. We have inalienable freedoms and rights that are ours. But the government is there to organize in such a way that it guarantees those rights. And so the government should really be there to guide the people and with the consent of the people, so that society can allow people just what I described, which is harness the power of the smart people and the moral people to build society, and therefore mitigate the damage caused by the immoral people, and then the lack thereof of the not so smart people. I mean, but Jean-Jacques Rousseau, on the other hand, went a little bit more, to the left, people would say, which he thinks that man was born free and everywhere we are enchained, right? He just thinks that, society should be in a way that the government, in Jean-Jacques Rousseau's mind, government may not as well even exist. He brings up this concept of the general will. And that's how society should be governed, by the will of everybody. And I bring up these three examples because, especially Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, because look at what has happened with Africa. That the Europeans feel that since we are all savages, since somehow God created man, who is white, created animals, and then somehow in between they created these humanoids. Or some quid in between the ape and man, which is African. that Africans cannot govern themselves. There goes when Jacques Chirac would tell you, or maybe Mitterrand and Koso to tell you that Africans should concern themselves with, being able to feed themselves and then clothe themselves and shelter, not even to talk about, freedoms or democracy and things like that. So that's why the sponsor dictators, immoral people, the likes of the Bia, who they see as those leviathans. Of course, they don't even think of the Bias as the leviathan. The Bias are to them, they're puppets. Then they are the puppeteers. They are the leviathans, actually, that are using these people to proxy control us. And that's where I'm telling Africans, you must repudiate that, because that's not your portion. You are created free. You are created just as smart as everybody else. Just, the same passions that you have. They are the same passions that your white brothers have, your white sisters have. The same intelligence that they have is the same intelligence you have. The only difference is that, like I said, the very smart amongst them, they've organized their society so as to tap from the smart people to progress to move their societies forward. Meanwhile, at the same time, they have elevated the stupid people, the dumb idiots, the dim-witted, morally bankrupt individuals to lord over us for the purpose of exploiting exploiting us. So that's the essence of that statement.
Yes, and I'm glad you expanded on it. I think I know of John Locke very well. I think, in fact, John Locke does not. In fact, he only advocates that we only need that we give away some of our powers to government to protect us against bullies. Otherwise, he believes that we all have. We know we have a good sense of right and wrong, and we know what we need and what we don't need, and we can take care of ourselves, but we cannot prevent the bully from invading our property. So I understand that part very well, and I think that the part that you just condemned is more Europeans creating an economic philosophy to go and exploit others. But let me ask you this. I think the last part of what you said, where you were addressing Africans that they're equal to anybody. Let me tell you something. I understood that a long time ago because I wrote the London GC. I did not write the Cameroon GC. And I know that we were writing the same history that kids in London were writing. So it has never, ever occurred to me that they're any smarter than we are. And having come to the West and live in the West, then you realize that, to be honest with you, the statement you made in Atlanta was more profound to me because of that also. Because when you actually come and live in the West, you realize that the West is not any different from Africa, and that most of the people are fairly average, and it's a few people who uplift others. And that's why that statement, somebody may have heard that statement. I know a lot of people laugh when you said it, but it was more profound to me because I have, especially trained as an economist, I've been thinking about these things. And so when you mentioned it, I'm like, yes, of course. John Locke himself did say that. I remember he in part of his writing, he talked of that we are equally intelligent. The European, he did not mention the European, but I know he talked about the king of Siam as being that we are all the same. So humans are the same, and that's why I'm saying that. I think that what you just mentioned about them saying we are that's somehow between animal and human. It's just the same exploitative philosophies that they
exactly use. What some of us have come to believe and internalize. Sadly, so such that. When you see, how many times do you see somebody on the highways here, or see somebody who sees planes, or maybe even when they see a bridge like the George Washington Bridge or like the Bay Bridge over there in Delaware, and then they marveled and say, "Oh, the white man, he wish. White man use his own wish for do this X, Y, or Z." No, stupid. This is not witchcraft. It's actually because somebody somewhere has actually organized society and really realize the importance of research, importance of education, importance of educating those scientists, right? And then, it is the combined intelligence of those smart people in the society that has actually brought us all these things that you're seeing here. If tomorrow Africa decides and say, okay, we're going to go to Africa and then build the same kinds of universities that will have the same endowments like institutions like mine here have, right? Institutions like the one that you attended have. And then we are going to actually make it possible that all those smart kids that you, that you school with, or maybe the smart kids of today, that we're going to offer them the opportunity to actually develop their intellect and put their intellect at the disposal of the people so they can actually invent, manufacture things, and collaborate with the other scientists from around the world, like many of us do. If they were to do that, I give you just about 15, 20, 30 years, and we'll catch up. And for those naysayers who say, oh, maybe that is too optimistic, look no further than China. Okay? Yes. Look no further than China. 40 years ago, China was actually considered a third world country.
And they were all wearing the same, all of them dressed the same with their bicycles.
Right. So, but fast forward now, there is not an airport that you will go to around now where there is not a big airport where you don't have Chinese, right? You will not go to any major cities that you don't really see certain Chinese edifices. In fact, it gets to a point now where big movie industries right now, Hollywood, if they're making any big blockbuster movie, they have to send it to China for the Chinese expert to have an input. So they take away those things that seem to portray China in bad light and only accentuate the things that portray China in good light. Why are they doing this? Because they know imagery matters, okay? The film, which time you see a black man in the film it was actually a black man who was playing some, maybe some terrible role, like some gangster or some morally degenerate individual. Those are the rules that are played. And then the young people picture them and thought that is exactly who they are. And you internalize it. And the airwaves, if you saw the black people, they were all players on the NBA, but nobody was coaching, right? Even in our own football, the black people didn't play quarterback, right? Because it was taught that quarterback, actually, you have to use more intellect. The other positions, you can just use athleticism. But this one, you use more intellect. So what I'm actually saying, and we'll go back to Ambazonia. And the reason I want to go back to Ambazonia is because that's actually where me and you actually happen to be from. And I would know that when I look at my own class and I look at every child, every student who ranked in the top 10 of that class, they are out. They are out.
Yes, they did not further their studies, you're saying?
No, I mean like they're out of the country. Why are we all out of the country? We're not out of the country by choice. We are out of the country because, again, our own governments, the gangsters in that country who parade themselves for governments, they want to make you be ashamed of your intelligence, right? They use your intelligence more, to either it serves their interest or they kill it. It's really that simple. And so the only way you can survive is to come out. And then when we come out, see where our people are. One of us is the director is now an ambassador of PEPFAR. One is actually just named as the vice president of the World Bank. One is also a cabinet secretary in the Obama administration. If you look at America, I'm a university lecturer. I'm an oncologist. I'm a researcher. If you come to the university and look at us and look around these universities, there are only 3 countries in Africa: Nigeria, Ghana, and I believe Kenya, that has more university lecturers I mean, more people in the universities, in the higher institution in America than that small, tiny little Ambazonia. Okay. So think about what these people could do if we were all home and if we had the right, the right environment.
What do you tell the African who has internalized these things and see the bridge and say white man's magic, like you just said? Because some of the things that you said were those that were addressing that squarely.
Right. So I have had this debate, and each time I hear somebody says white man magic, and that includes my own family, I said, no, stop. That is called science. And I tell the people, before there was Harvard, before there was Cambridge, there was Timbuktu, the University of Timbuktu. Okay. So this was the center of learning in the whole world. That intelligence that went from that whole body of knowledge, including a lot of the scientific books that we read, that went from, Africa to Greece, to Europe, and finally here to America. And actually, maybe you can talk about China as well. That we need to reclaim that. And the only way we can reclaim that, again, is in advocating, building institutions, organizing society in the way that society would allow the people with knowledge, the people with ability, to be able to manifest that ability, to be able to use and to leverage that intelligence and uplift the entire society. And take no, don't you're not second to anybody. And we see this. And the only way, when somebody wants to enslave you, the first thing they want to do is to enslave your brain, right? And therefore, when they tell you that you are inferior, then every other thing else follows, right? Even you, as smart as you are, you're going to actually somehow accept or maybe begin to doubt yourself. Even if you don't accept it, you doubt yourself. You begin to doubt yourself. When self-doubt creeps in, that's a problem. And that's exactly what your oppressor wants. In today's society, where the West wants to make every other person earth, you see it on television, you see it in cinemas, right, in the media. So everything that is good appears to be Western. When they talk about something good, they talk about Western connotes something good. And it's almost as if that intelligence came from the creator or from nature and only landed in the West and never got distributed, to the other parts of the world. It's as if all the smart people somehow were born here and of a certain color. So that's what I'm trying to tell everybody. You have to repudiate that. Our young people have to just tell themselves the only difference between you and me is opportunity. And our desire and I think the only way we're going to get that society is actually if we first of all seek, a free society, freedom, so we can all contribute into actually ushering in the kind of society that would allow for us to be able to utilize this kind of talent in different talents.
Absolutely. I think we should also mention Rwanda, because Kagame too has done a lot of good things for his country by challenging some of these notions that you're talking about. I'm going to bring it back to I'm going to bring this conversation back to how it affects Ambazonia. There's a statement you made, which is just mentioned it again.
I'm a physician. I'm a university lecturer. I'm a researcher. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do this. I'm forced to do this because none of that makes sense to me if my people are dying.
That's a statement you made in Atlanta. And yes, and I'll put you in the group of overachievers, okay? And I would say in our society, overachievers tend not to think the way you did, because what you're basically doing is not the norm. You don't find some of the some of those highly placed people being involved in our struggle. What do you think about that? Am I correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, that sadly it is true, and for several reasons. Number one is, in a society like ours, there are there's some of us who, because of a degree of academic freedom, academic achievement or economic achievement, we seem to think that the problems of the common man in the society are not our problems. Okay. And in some ways we benefit from it, right? Because the people who have the little money from here and they go to Cameroon, they are thinking, because every other person else is poor, rather than that person looking at uplifting the poor person and saying, what is about this society that is so wrong that make these people poor? Even when some of us actually realize that some of these people who you meet who are so poor were actually smarter than we were. They just didn't have the opportunities. But when you go there, rather than uplift them because of the opportunities you've had, it is easier for you to see that person who is struggling and rather use your money to go, and then if they have a small farmland, you buy it at half the price or at 1/3 the price, right? And then you say, you pat yourself in the chest, you pat yourself on the cheek and say, oh yeah, and then the people who are selling, you get there, the next thing that you want to do is gather people around and show them how, you can drink wine that is worth maybe 100,000 and whatever. You may know that. I don't know about that kind of wine anyway, but that's the problem. It is when other people are seeing you and looking up to you and saying, oh yeah, looking at maybe sweeping and laying a red carpet for you. This is what a lot of our people want. On the other hand, the other people, some of our own intellectuals, when I talk to them, part of the reason why they don't want to engage in the struggle is that there is a lot of mudslinging, right? You go there and then somebody who, as you start talking, then they start throwing mud at you. There's a lot of insults and besmirching your character, impugning your reputation and blackmailing and all of that stuff. And so, but that comes with the territory. It comes with the territory. If you actually at some point, if what concerns you, if you're annoyed because somebody has insulted you, right? Think about the poor man who cannot even eat. Think about Baby Mata who was killed, shot with minimal bullets that could kill an elephant, right? What did she do? You've got to think about what kind of a society makes it possible that not only are that babies can be slaughtered in their cribs. What kind of society makes it possible that when people actually come out of school, instead of thinking about what to do with their brains, they are thinking about who they know? Augustine, you've been here for 20-something years or 30 years or maybe, I guess. Since you started working here, how many times have you ever gone to see the CEO of a company with an envelope?
Nothing.
Right?
Never done
that. If they tell you that there is an interview, there is a job application, you prepare your CV, right?
Yeah.
You show up for the job interview, right? You find out what the job entails and what the people want, right?
Yes.
And you give it to them, and then they hire you. They hire the best. If you don't like that job, what do? You go find another job, right? In Cameroon, what happens? If me and you can sit here, and if you want to if I wanted to be as gullible as the others, it's very easy. I could relate with the very top of that country, all right? And then I could use the little money you have and then do what? Buy exams for positions for your own family or for your own friends and all whatnot, right? And then when you go there, you say, oh, that's what you think of as success. And that is the kind of society that we as intellectuals, we as people who have had the chance to be here, must repudiate. We must fight to dismantle that system.
You could be doing really well, achieve really well academically, but if your own people, if your own group is not doing well, you yourself, the high achiever, is not even respected. Isn't that true? They actually look at you as an exception. I remember there was a time when the Japanese in this country were just called Japs because they were not respected. But when Japan became an industrialized and accomplished economy, any Japanese or any Asian who comes through the door is already considered smart, and then they have to show that they're not as smart. But when you come from an underperforming society or an underperforming race, regardless of how well you're performing, when you come through the door, there's a very big question mark, and then you have to prove yourself. Isn't that a benefit that even the intellectuals should be doing what you're doing, going back and improving their own kind?
I think this is the one of the things you can see here in the United States, and I'm not sure whether you've had this happen to you, where somebody thinks that they are complimenting you and they say, "Oh, you are not like them," right? That's the most offensive statement ever anybody can make to me. And I've had that statement made, and I give it right back to them. Okay? Each time somebody makes that statement, you are not like them. Like them who? Because this is the image of us that people have actually seen or been given. That if you achieved, then somehow you are some kind of an aberration.
An outlier.
Because them means the dumb black guys, right? Which makes me, I always remember the W.E. Du Bois, I would say, when he used to say that, when he wrote that, each time he saw somebody asking him how he felt being discriminated against, or he felt being, somebody being looked down on, that he always felt like the right question they wanted to ask him was how he felt being born a crime, right? And that's exactly how they look at us, right? As you are saying, the tide that would lift all the boats is a tide that would actually make sure that when you get the black people or our Africans or the black race, if you went amongst the black and count every black race and everybody that you saw there was as successful as the rest, and like you said, yes, everybody, they would tend to try to start respecting everybody, or the black people, just like they did with Chinese. The problem is that, yes, there is that nobody can deny that there is an attempt, there is a systematic racism that allows, that continuously want to put the black man at a certain level. But that racism can only exist and perpetuate itself if we allow it to, yes. Right? Because we can fight back. Yeah. I've met with a group of my African-American friends, intellectual, and I always said, look, if the next big invention comes out of Africa, the next scientific breakthrough, think about the Black Panther, and think about that. What did they call that city?
Wakanda.
Think about if Wakanda becomes a reality tomorrow, such that all the titanium things that they were talking about, that all futuristic science is actually from Africa. Just stop and think as how they will see the African next, and then how they will see the black man on the street here in America.
In fact, let me just throw this. I was just listening on the radio this week, and there was a show about how Nigerian music is very, very popular in the United States. So it is gaining a very solid worldwide attention and popularity, and it's just because of what the Nigerian musicians have done.
Right.
And so these things they're very easily overcome. So Doc, what do you tell these people who don't want to get sort of the mudslings or I mean, you out there, you're doing it. I don't know that people disrespect you, and I don't know that. And I think you said something very very correctly that it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory.
Yes.
So what do you tell these other people to? Because we all need to participate in this struggle. This country was not built by some people and not others. Some of the inventions, and I think you nailed it when you said a society that leverages what is good, and then everybody else benefits from it. So how do you encourage our own intellectuals and our own overachievers to start engaging in you are so well read. I mean, when you mention Hobbes and John Locke and some of those people, I mean, I don't even see where that came from looking at your background. So I think coming from the underprivileged background, we have more work to do, and not building a little glass castle somewhere and sitting there and looking down on your own people and enjoying their admiration of you. I want you to address that and tell those who are in that class that that's just the wrong thing to do.
Of course. I'll let everybody think for themselves, but this is the message I have. To organize society, you don't necessarily need to be at the forefront carrying an Ambazonian flag. Okay? If you take any group of Ambazonian children and train them or mentor them, in the courses, in whatever position you find yourself, that is already the beginning of something. If you go to your local, because Ambazonia or the Africans are generally organized around cultural groups. If you go to your cultural group and you don't actually try to use your position more to, give it to the people, I mean, like to poke fingers at the eyes of the members of your community, but rather use that knowledge to uplift them, to teach them how to organize, to conscientize them, and in a way to let them see the problems of the common man as their own problems. After all, if you don't do that, guess what is going to happen? At the end of the day, when you're no more, if you go to Cameroon, if that's what you think, like for the people who say, oh, I don't want to get involved because if I go to Cameroon, then I want to go to Cameroon and do my businesses. I want to go to Cameroon for my leisure and so on and so forth. But when you go to Cameroon, what are you doing? You have to go and sleep in some hotel and hire security guards, right? If you're going to sleep if you send your brother some money to build a house, the first thing they build is some very long fence, right? Who are they fencing out? Right? So there is no way that you will be free until those herds of people back there are also free.
Absolutely.
No way that you will be able to really sit back and even your own children, tomorrow, whatever investment that you leave in that part of the world, those your own children, when you leave that investment, the people who were not educated, they will come as thieves. They will come as armed robbers, rob those your children, right? And of that property, or those your children will become prisoners as well, locked up in those behind those fences. They can't come out. Since you've been here in the United States, how many fences have you seen around people's houses?
There are no fences like the ones you're talking about.
And this forced generosity, what Paulo Freire would call false generosity, where we somehow think that, oh, maybe I can go there and then contribute $100, and then maybe I would tell the people I'd contribute $100 for a water project, and that would be my claim to fame. Or maybe I send somebody, I go there and I give somebody 10,000 and or I give little handouts to them, but the structure remains the same. The structure that has impoverished them remains the same. You keep it in place. That's really I ask people to look into their consciences and say, ask yourself, and many of us who actually are in this country, like you said, I think that there is a degree of serendipity that brought us here. It's not an exam that you wrote to come here. And even if it was an exam that you wrote to come here, who actually decided their mother or their parents? Who decided to be born smart or stupid, right? No, nobody. So there is some degree where we have to say, Mother Nature gave it to me. If you want to call it God, call it God. If you want to call it Allah, call it Allah. I am here. I have been given this gift. The question is, what are you going to do with that gift? The parable of the talents in the Bible. What are you going to do with those talents that you've been given? So this is what you should be asking yourself. And for those people who say, oh, I don't want to get involved because somebody would insult me. The person is somebody is insulting you because the intellectuals have actually pulled back, allowed the riffraffs, allowed the non-entities, allowed the scammers to actually take control. They say nature abhors a vacuum. Nature hates vacuum, right? You create that vacuum, these riffraffs will get in there. And once they get in there and then they start doing what their intellect, their level of intelligence and their level of morality and their level of thinking allows them to do, then you point to it and say, you see, this is why I'm not getting in because of X, Y, and Z. You allow it to be so. And always remember this. Let me say this lastly. Each one of us, I don't bother who it is, whether it was Obama, Biden, whoever, it's everybody. All the Ambazonians who are here, and as are all Americans, if you go back, you're going to find that somebody did something for you or for your parents or for your great-grandparents that contributed to your being where you are. Okay, for you and me, somebody dug the road that we went to school on. Somebody built the classrooms that me and you studied in. Somebody, built the hospitals that we sought care at. And somebody of goodwill, if they didn't do it for you, they did it for your parents, who then sponsored you and to be who you are. So give back.
It is very important to give back. And you were talking about people going home and even living behind fences. No, I think one of the simplest one is you go home and there are cops that stop you on the highway and have the power to kill you. And so if you're not trying to change that society, then you're not even helping yourself. And as I'm saying this, I'm remembering a statement that you also made in Atlanta. And here's a statement. You said, no matter what La Republique thinks, we shall win this war.
No matter what La Republique thinks, we shall win this war.
Correct.
Yep. And when I talk about victory, I'm not talking about your own kind of pirate victory that I hear some people talk about winning with just the gun. La Republique thinks they can just win. But we will win this war.
Right.
And when we win, it will be a war of freedom.
Not the kind of winning that you see on online all the time. Doc, I really want to say that I am very proud to know you and privileged to have shared the stage with you because you were profound and you are a good example of when we were growing up, there used to be a book called Makers of Civilization. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't think I read that one.
But these are I get involved in this not because I like it, because I get called names too, and they challenge you not only they challenge you everywhere. There is everywhere that there's a saying that ships are not built to stay at the harbor. They're built to go out there and face the storms, and they only do that when they're going somewhere. So you are not only this statement that I just read, that is a statement that says that's a man who wants to change society, because society is a macro thing. You cannot go and say in this rotten environment I'll carve out some good places for me. You would still get caught. So I really appreciate you and some of the things that you do, and you're maybe it's the teacher in you that is really getting you out to do some of this work.
About Einstein, back in the days, the first time when he was he applied to the Zurich Polytechnic. Albert Einstein scored almost 100% in physics and math, but they want to meet him because he failed humanities. And the guy was looking at it and like, these dumb people, what do they want me to do humanities for? And but he wanted to go into the Polytechnic, and until he passed humanities, they were not admitting him. Mm-hmm. Fast forward back after he came to Princeton to teach. I mean, after Nazi Germany, actually after Nazi Germany reared its ugly head. But Einstein began to understand, and both in his later life, he began to understand that that humanity was actually even much more important than the science.
It is. And let me tell you something. There's a thing, when I was taking Economics 3000, there was a book that actually defined the essence of everything that we're doing. And the essence of everything that we are studying is to serve human beings.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, then you're not well adjusted.
Absolutely not.
I keep telling people my first encounter with Ayuk Siseko. I had driven from the University of Vermont, to for about 3.5 hours. Got there, sat at the meeting that he called, and for 2 hours I did not see him. When he showed up with the convoy, and just people were clapping and they were about to start the meeting, I called a point of order, and I picked up the microphone, not in private, and I roasted him on the floor. And I told him about my experiences as a child with the colonial mayor deals, where I would go as a young child and stand there until many of us would faint on the line for an idiot to stroll around 2 p.m. And then maybe 1 p.m. and people are passing out of hunger and stuff. Yes. And I told him that if that is the country you want to lead me to, I'm going to be the first one to oppose you and will kick you out right away. Ayuk, in his characteristic, humble and intelligent person, an educated person, because he understood it. Yes. He understood my pain. Yes. So he was able to pick up and apologize profusely. Yes. And it turned out that it was actually some of the people within the local community who actually made him come late. Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The following day, we were supposed to meet the mayor of Lowell. Mm-hmm. Ayuk was the first person there. As he saw me, as I was approaching there, he said, "This is the reason I had to come early because that's the mark. That's the mark of him. Yeah, that's the mark of a leader. Correct. Yeah. Correct. That's the mark of a comrade. And he will always remind me that. Yeah, correct. But you take any of these riffraffs, they want to tell you something about medicine. They want to tell you something about law. They want to tell you something about history. They want to tell you something about geography. And none of them has ever read a book.
No.
That's what we're about here. So this is the problem. And that's why I'm just saying that it is not the numbers. As the Americans will say, it's not the size of the dog, but the size of the fight in the dog that matters. Yes. So it doesn't matter how many we are. We actually can organize ourselves and bring Ambazonia to the promised land. Yes. And did I hear somebody say, yes, we will do?
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. All right.
Yes, we will.
There you go.